Could Mark Kelly be the Democrats' nominee for president in 2028? That's the buzz going around Washington as the former astronaut and current Arizona senator's profile continues to rise amid clashes with the president and Secretary of Defense. Here to discuss, Sarakshi Rai, Deputy Managing Editor here at The Hill. Hey, Sarakshi. So CNN has this profile of Senator Kelly, kind of details how he went from this low-profile policy wonk to this confrontations with President Trump and Secretary Hegseth over this video that he and other lawmakers made urging military members not to obey unlawful orders. Talk about Senator Kelly's kind of rise from being someone that maybe wasn't discussed about so much to possibly being considered for the nomination for Democrats in 2028.
Yeah, Drew, we've seen Senator Mark Kelly's profile really rise up through the ranks, right? He was on the short list to be considered as the vice presidential candidate when Kamala Harris was running in 2024. Now, he lost out to Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota. But what we're seeing is that, essentially Mark Kelly has seen his profile rise recently. He has been taking more of a stance on some of these issues in the Senate. He is a moderate Democrat, which appeals to a lot of the Americans who are looking at, the potential list of 2028 nominees. And he's also, taking on the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, over, what he says are urging military members to not obey unlawful orders. We've also seen him in clashes with President Trump. So essentially, he's telling CNN in this very lengthy profile that he's not considering running, but for now, the timing has to be right and it has to be the right moment for the right person. So he's not outrightly saying that he's going to run, but he is seriously considering it as per that CNN profile, Drew.
Yeah, I'm sure he's getting this question all the time now as his star continues to rise. How is he framing his decision-making process and whether or not he might actually get into this race?
Look, there are a couple of favorites and a couple of Democratic candidates who are already frontrunners, right? Like California Governor Gavin Newsom is one of them. House lawmaker Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez from New York has been kind of a bit of a buzzy candidate. She's always been a bit buzzy, right? But her star is also rising among Democrats and the party. But what we've seen from Mark Kelly is that, he has been asked multiple times, in interviews and in appearances whether he's considering running or not. And he's not outrightly said whether or not he would run. In November, when he was asked the same question, he said that he's not going to say yes or no whether he's running. Even now, he's saying it has to be the right moment for the right candidate and the right moment for the country and the right candidate for the country. So he's really considering, all possibilities, but there's no denying that, there is significant buzz because of some of the moves he's made. And he is, maybe the Democratic Party is looking for someone like him who is down the middle, who is more moderate, who can maybe unite this very fractured Democratic base that the party is hoping comes out to vote in 2028.
Yeah, you mentioned also that he was passed over when it came to Kamala Harris's running mate in the 2024 election. He does carry the adjective moderate by his name a lot of times when people talk to him. It's unclear, I think, whether or not that's a positive or a negative heading into 2028. But certainly there has been, for some inside the base of the Democratic Party, the fact that he is associated with the term moderate would be seen as a negative.
For some, yes. But on the flip side, some might also see the term moderate as a plus because, there are a lot of progressive candidates in the running. We've seen previous progressive candidate Bernie Sanders have a huge following and really, make waves on the national circuit. Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez is a progressive and she's a rising star within the party as well. But the question I think the Democrats have to tackle with the 2028 election is do they want a progressive candidate that is a bit more potentially could cause fireworks and get a lot of support from the people, but lose out on uniting this very fractured base of the Democratic Party? Or do they want a moderate candidate who might not be, as progressive as some of the other candidates, but could perhaps unite the Democrats across all ages and demographics and really bring the party together where they come out and vote for their candidates. So I think that's something the Democratic Party has to decide for themselves, and it's going to be a very, very, very massively heavy, full of different personalities, full of different people, full of different political bents. When the Democrats do have their primary, and when they do have people running for that 2028 seat.
Kelly's rise seems to be associated with this issue that he's taken up with the defense secretary, the video that he made, and the subsequent reaction from the secretary and the possible investigation. What's the latest in that?
That's right. So essentially, if you break it down, Mark Kelly was one of the few Democrats who appeared in that video calling on members of the military to not obey unlawful military orders. Now, that struck a nerve with Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, and he, has threatened to demote Kelly, to, perhaps hold his pay, and make all sorts of moves. He also threatened to charge him with sedition. And Mark Kelly, for his part, is not taking any of those things lying down. He's filed a lawsuit saying that what Pete Hegseth is doing is unlawful, and he is and endangers the legislative branch of government, because it's his right to be able to express that. And essentially, is really upping the ante with this fight, and where he said that he shouldn't be demoted over this video. He shouldn't have a pay cut, and that Pete Hegseth is in the wrong. So it is all heading towards a very fiery court battle that Mark Kelly has set up for himself with the Secretary of Defense and the Pentagon.
All right. It's a story we will surely continue to follow, but for now we will leave it at that. Sarakshi Rai, thank you.